because you guys are already familiar with document management and all that. So I was just going to start out with, looking at the software itself. And then, as we go through, if you have questions, let's just, let's deal with them as they come up. And I guess, Pete, one of the things you mentioned was, you guys kind of were, a more streamlined method to get documents in was one of the things we talked about. And as far as documents that you guys are generating through UnForm, once you've got the archive licensed, which is the document repository, it's a simple matter of just adding the archive command into your rule file, and then anything you print will just go in automatically. So you don't have to do anything, you don't have to create parses and all that kind of stuff. It just goes in and it's there. And if you change your documents, that's reflected right away. So those go straight in. As far as like scanning and importing stuff, the image manager is the piece we use to do that. So this is, essentially what, the interface that that your folks would be using. So one of the first things that you do is define a source. So a source can be a scanner, it can be, a directory, it could be a mailbox, it could be a lot of different things. And that's just, based on the source, we know, where to go pick up the documents and then what to do with them based on, where they're coming from. So we're going to look at this one. This is vendor invoices. So this source happens to be a directory that we're monitoring. So I'm just going to copy some documents into that directory. So, they could be, they could be getting into this directory just like I did it. Someone could just be dragging them, dropping them in there. It could be scanned into it, however they get there. So it picked them all up and brought them in, excuse me, to the image manager. And this is where you can build what we call, you can build different job definitions based on, the source and what those types of documents are. So when I brought these in, it ran, a predefined job on these documents based on where that source was. So these are vendor invoices. So as they came in this case, we used optical character recognition to grab the information that we need to index that document. You'll see here, I got check marks on all these. So as they came in, we ran some validations against it. So, this is, the validations can be a variety of things. It can be, did I capture certain data elements that are required prior to indexing this, like the vendor number, vendor name, those kinds of things. It could be, these validations could be against SXE. So does this PO number that I got off this document, does it actually exist in SXE? So the validations can be a lot of different things to, to make sure that that document has the information on it that we need to index it. If for some reason it didn't, you wouldn't have a checkbox. And then this whole process can be as automated as you want it to be as well. Excuse me. So in here, if you look at the job configurations, this is where you go and build the different job definitions to do this. So here you can build those validations in. You can have different parameters. So in this case, I've got this turned off, but if all those check marks, I could have just finished those documents and they would have been in the archive ready to go. And the only thing that a user would be doing would be looking in there to make sure there weren't any exceptions. So were there some documents that came in for some reason, I didn't get all the data I needed to be able to file those away. So the parameters can be, that kind of thing, did I get everything I need? It could also be adding additional data to the index information that you may need as well. So very flexible. in, you know, what you can do. And then, you know, you can certainly define zones to do barcode reads or optical character recognition. And then, Pete, here's where you can actually go in and use, it's the same scripting language that you use to do your rule files. So you've got those code blocks and all those other things you can use to build your rule files. So if you're familiar with the rule files and how flexible those can be, this is where you can do that kind of stuff. So you can have some very automated jobs, but you can also have jobs where someone may just want to come in and, you know, manually input the data. So there may be, you know, other types of documents, maybe HR documents where you're not going to be able to auto pull or do some stuff where you want to key stuff in. So you have the option to do that. You can have, you know, manual jobs where you know, key in the index information, and then you can have very automated jobs to pull those documents in as well. And in addition, in this particular job def we ran, we're also grabbing line item detail off of that document. So you can actually grab line item detail off of a vendor invoice and then format that as, you know, an electronic transaction. Typically, you know, we piggyback off of SX's EDI capability and create the EDI10i.dat file, and you can import it from there. So that's all built in to the image manager. So, you know, again, you know, your source can be a variety of things, you know, mailbox, it can be a directory, a scanner, whatever. And then based on that source, you can set up these definitions to run specific jobs based on the type of documents you got coming in. So any questions on that at this point?
Can you also provide a data file with a document? So example would be is we have a processor that vendor invoices come in, it processes that whole vendor invoice, you know, into our system. So some human or the machine has already figured out the PO and the cost and fixed all that stuff.
Yep.
Can you pass the document and a data file where it uses the data from the file to, you know, index the document?
Oh yeah, absolutely. To index it, or we could pass a data file too that you could use to upload it into AP. So yes, absolutely. And it's, let me, I'll tell you what, let me do this. So these, again, these are all ready to go because I've got this check mark. So I'm going to go ahead and upload them. So, and again, that could be all automated as well. So if we go here and here, so here's one of the documents we just uploaded. So I've got, you know, this is a human readable version of the XML data that we generated from it. But you can also just, if I remember, excuse me.
But my question's more the other way around. If we already have pre-processed this document, can we provide a data file that's used?
I got you. To get it into the archive.
Correct. So that somebody doesn't, you know, say it's a poorly scannable document. Somebody's already gone through the process in AP of fixing all that information.
Yes.
Can it just consume it?
Yes. Yes. So there's a couple ways we can address that. We have a process that we call application AFO, application formatted output, that essentially is a method that you can use to import you know, already generated, already created documents. And if you have the data file, we can bring the associated data in and upload it to index it. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And you can also, yes. So yeah, there's a couple ways we can address that. Absolutely. I got you. So again, that's kind of, does that kind of give you a good idea on bringing documents in? And again, if it's already in electronic format, you don't have to print it out and scan it. You drop it in a directory and it brings it in. So, any other questions?
No, that's pretty straightforward. That's
Yep.
And I guess my only other question would be: it's a web-based application, so how does the
Yep.
scanner connect to it, or is it just scan to a folder and then it reads that folder?
Yes, scan to the folder, read the folder.
Okay.
Yeah. Scan to the folder, read the folder. And then once it's all in there, it's everything comes in. And again, it doesn't matter how or when it comes in, it all gets linked together. So in GUI, we have a desktop client you can use to launch out of SXE. When you move to Web UI, there's two methods that our customers are using. One is using those in-context searches to launch out of there, but you can also set up, oh gosh, I just went blank on what they call that. I'll think of it in a minute, but there's two different methods in the Web UI you can use to launch the retrieval app straight out of SX. Go ahead.
So for, do they need the GUI, or is it all web-based? Can they all pull the documents off the server? Because the other question would be is, can you provide access to the documents to, customers and people that aren't on-prem?
Yeah, it's all web-based, so absolutely you can provide access. And we've got some APIs you can use to integrate it with your existing website and do exactly what you're talking about. So customers could come in, suppliers, whoever, has a login and password can come in and get to whatever it is they're looking for. Or, if it's just, if it's like, material safety data sheets, you don't necessarily have to lock those down by username and password. So.
And I assume, so for in our application, we have, some documents that we're archiving centrally. So that would be like invoices and things like that. And then we also have location-specific documents that would be like proof of deliveries or packing lists.
Sure.
Does the security allow you to lock down, for the input? We don't want the girl in Linden to be processing the girl in Bridgewater's proof of deliveries.
Right.
Lock it down for who has access to what import step?
Yeah, based on those sources. Exactly. You got it. Yeah, and if you don't want them to view documents from other locations, you don't have to let them view them either, based on, company number, warehouse number, whatever it is, however you guys have it configured.
Okay.
Again, from within, the retrieval, you can email directly out of here. And again, everything gets linked together as it comes in. Actually, I'm rebuilding my demo server right now, and you can actually, because, a check would have been generated through UnForm, you can actually have these create hyperlinks. So you could drill from here, but they're still in here. So, from the check, I can get to the PO, to invoices, whatever. And then from here too, if I'm on a document, I can add an image from here too. So if I have, I don't know if an AP, if you fill out some kind of form prior to either over or underpaying an invoice, you can attach it right here, or you could attach an email right here as well. So you just browse to, wherever that particular document is, and you can add it from within retrieval.
Now, what do you do if you have multiple of the same document? So for example, it would be, you reprinted a check or, printed a PO twice or something like that.
It's up to the way you create the job defs and rule files. So if you want to replace it, you can. If you want to keep each version, you can. It's entirely up to, and it depends, with some documents you might want to keep the history. I would keep if you reprint a check, I would definitely want to keep each of those,
right,
just so we'd have a log of, who did what. But you may have others where you simply want to replace that So you do have those kinds of options as well.
And what other metadata is captured when you archive the document? So like date, time, who, or?
You can, it's as much or as little as you want. So we can do a full text OCR of a document and actually store all that, and you can search based on that. And it's all, the way we do it too, each is considered an indexed value. So it's a quick search. You can do, again, it all goes back to one, if it's something you're printing, the rule file, or if it's something that, excuse me, that you're bringing in through the image manager, it's all based on, what you've chosen to do. So you can grab a lot of different things. We've got keywords that you can use. We've got different categories. You've got, again, just a multitude of ways to capture different metadata, as much or as little as you need.
Well, I'm looking for data that wouldn't be on the document. So like the date it was archived, who was the operator.
Yep, we log all that. So there is a log.
Is it available from the document though? But let me give you a common use case is, somebody says we didn't, send a PO.
Mm-hmm.
Or we sent it 10 days after we did, to be able to go in and say, oh no, here's where it was printed on the 3rd. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I do. I'm trying to think of the best way to show you that. So let's see here. I think I've got it. I'm not sure I have the logging turned on here. So there's all my related. Yeah, I'm not, Pete, I'm sorry. I don't have logging turned on the demo box. What I'll do though, is I'll send you exactly how you do that.
Okay, and so, but the key is it's attached to the document, not just in some ginormous log somewhere that you have to go find it, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and we do have option. Let me see if I loaded it up here. We do also have, it's option, it's another, it's an optional module. We do have some doc flow capability that gives you a lot of that information as well too. So you can actually set up doc flows. So if you have to go through an approval process, excuse me, then let me see here, the log should, okay, these just came in. So let me show you these logs anyway. So in this one, you can create different roles, and based on a role, move it, through a process. So if you have expense invoices you have to have approved or whatever, we can actually create doc flows and move those along. And then we update this one. And it will log who did everything to that particular document then. And it actually has the log available here. I just, as I updated it, it would write to the log and tell me who did what to who on this one. I just got to go back and look at how to pull up the log on, when you import a document and do the email and fax and all that, how to pull that log up. But I'll send that to you.
And one other question, does it have the ability to do, I don't know how to put it, a random documents? So in other words, we know we have invoices, we know we have POs, we know we have whatever, vendor invoices. Mm-hmm. But I get a request from time to time where it's like, oh, we want to store some random document that goes with the order.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So somebody wrote us a note that said, wow, you're the best, and we want to attach it to the order.
Yes.
Can you, obviously it would be manual process, but can you, whatever, index them, attach them to the PO, the order number, the whatever?
Yes. So you can do that actually right here. So you could pull up a copy of you know, the document here and simply add it here, right? So I could browse to wherever the document is and bring it in from there. So if I had an email that said, you know, hey, I talked to the, you know, to our purchasing agent and the pricing is correct on this or not, you can actually add that right to the document from within retrieval. You don't have to go back and scan things through, and it adds it to the document.
Okay. And again, that's a security operation, whether somebody has permission to do that or not.
Correct. Correct. We also too, there is, do you guys use Outlook?
We do.
Email? So we've also got an Outlook plugin that you can use to submit straight from Outlook as well. So if you have, like, a customer emails you a purchase order, you can submit it, you know, straight from Outlook. So you don't have to, you know, necessarily print it out and scan it, or, you know, you can use the Outlook plugin, or you just drag and drop it into one of those monitored directories and it'll bring it in.
Okay, that's all neat and cool. Any questions, Isa, on acquisition?
Acquisition? I don't know. So the tax certificates we can store.
Sure.
What are the predefined document types that you actually manage?
You can store any, or, you know, whatever kind of document you want in here. So, you know, AP, you can do HR, you can do, yeah, your tax certificates, all those kinds of things. And then you can do, you know, with tax search, you can do, you know, once you get those in there, if you have, use the expiration date as one of your index values, you can, you know, have alerts when stuff starts to approach a expiration date and alert people.
Is there any way to link the document to the order, like through the note? Like, do we do it right now? Like, if we click on a link in a note or something like that on the order, and it opens some document related to the order.
So if it's a, I guess, so like if you have, if it's a document that you're generating out of UnForm.
Or maybe from email, something like that.
From email, so
from
you can, well, yeah, when you bring it in, you can create these links. So this is a check. So, you know, as the invoices come in, you know, we can create that hyperlink so you can just drill down to it. So, you know, yes, you can. I'm thinking, so what you want, I guess, on an inbound customer order, you probably want to capture their PO so that you could link back to the PO. I don't know. Did I answer your question or not? I think I got off track there.
I mean, if you can create the link to the document, it means if somebody will copy this link on a note, let's say to SXE, would it work?
Oh, I don't know. Never tried it.
Okay.
I mean, you can certainly create the, you know, a hyperlink. It's a URL, right? Whether or not you can actually copy that into, you know, a node, I don't know. But again, you can launch from, if you're on order inquiry in SX, in GUI, you can use the desktop client and it'll launch the appropriate documents based on the order you're looking for. And then in Web UI, you know, again, you can do the in-context searches as well.
What do we do right now with PODs? I mean, those PODs that are coming from DQ, do we store them in Max Recall right now?
We do, the ones that are signed. Well, not from DQ, because if it's DQ, well, I take that back. Yeah, it depends on the warehouse. So like if it's
For the house drug deliveries.
Right, the TWL warehouses, it's all electronic, but the paper warehouses, they scan them in and they're stored in Max Recall, and then they're indexed by the order number. So you go,
yeah,
in SXE, you'd start the Max Recall client, look up proof of deliveries, enter the order number, and that would retrieve the document.
The question about documents, if we would like to bring in the historical data, like, for example, from Max Recall,
yep,
it's possible to bring to index them in UnForm?
Yeah, actually it is. We've done quite a few conversions. So we have, built conversion scripts to do that. Well, obviously you got to test them a little bit because not everybody uses the same index information, but we've already got them built and used them, to convert folks.
We would hate, like, to have the documents in on three different platforms,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
depending on what year the document was originated,
Right.
to different software.
Yeah, no, we do have the conversion it's something you got to do, a block at a time. So typically, you'd grab a date range and kick it off and let it run over the weekend, kind of thing. But depending on how much you've got stored. But yes, we do have the ability to convert those.
And one of my questions too would be, as far as you pull up a document and now I want to send it to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
So I assume I can email a document.
Yep.
I assume I can print a document.
Correct.
Then one of the things we have a few annoying customers. And what they want to see at their end of the month when we send them their statement, they want a copy of every POD that goes with that statement. So is there a way to bulk print or bulk, export to PDF, a range or a group of invoices?
Yeah, and I'm thinking too that you could, as you run so it's at a statement run when you do that? Is that when you said? When you run statements?
Some of them are statements, some of them are, they have a question about, a job they were working on. They want to see all the PODs because they need to submit it to the government.
Sure.
But it basically boils down to they need a bulk of PODs.
Yep.
It's always one customer. It would always be, either a date range or an invoice range.
Yep.
It's definable, but right now we need to pull them up one at a time and, print them or change them to a PDF.
Oh, no, you can do a bulk thing. And I think too, I'm betting we can do something in a rule file too, to pull all that stuff together so that as you generate them, based on this customer, group all the PODs that are appear on this particular statement, because we've got all the data, right? We've got all the order numbers and everything. And as long as they're in the archive, we could do a bulk send of all that. But you can certainly do a bulk send based on date ranges and things like that as well.
And so could you show document retrieval?
Mm-hmm. So that's what we're in right now.
Right.
So again, if you're launching out of SXE, it's going to launch a document. So let me back up too. So the way this is retrieval. So within retrieval, you build what we call libraries, which is similar to what you guys are working with now. So a library, again, it's typically a logical grouping of documents based on a job function, and then you can control by security parameters who has access, to those different libraries. And documents can be across multiple libraries as well. So, within accounts payable, you'd have the documents typically associated with that. So checks, expense invoices, POs, trade, those kinds of things. Excuse me. So, once I go in, if I'm looking for a check, it'll pull up a copy of the check. And then from there, since I've got invoice numbers and PO numbers in the remittance advice, as I printed that check, I'm actually, capturing that data, and I can link back to each of those documents. So I can come in and grab, the invoice or the PO, any of those things. So that is, if I'm searching for one document and I need more information, I can drill down to it. But we've also got other ways to find them. So you can browse a library and, find all the documents associated with that one click. So for this one trade invoice here, it grabbed, the invoice, the PO, and the check that it was paid with. If there was a packing slip in there, it would have brought that up too. And then you can also, view all this stuff side by side as well. So if I'm in here and I want to, I'm reviewing checks to sign them, and I need to take a look at an invoice, and maybe I want to see the packing slip and the PO, I can view them all side by side and, do my comparisons all from here as well. So there's a lot of different ways to find the documents. When you're in here, you can create custom searches in here based on any of the, the metadata used to, that are used to store those documents. So, you can search here by the type, and again, you got begin and end dates, all those kinds of things. You can search by keywords, by categories, a lot of different ways to find it. So I guess we have so many different ways to find it. It's, if you can't, it's not in there, right? It's very flexible and very thorough as far as being able to do your searches. So,
and those, if you define the searches, is that system-wide or user?
Either way, so you can make them public or not.
Okay, so we could predefine a bunch of searches for people, and yep, they can also create their own.
Correct. Yep. So, and again, you could also just, you can always use too the APIs on your website to design, your own retrieval. So, to do what you need to do that way as well. So, if you got customers, or, even if you got sales reps out on the road that need to get in and get a few things here and there, have them come in through the website and get what they need real quick. So, does that help?
That does, absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, it pretty much does everything I'm aware we do.
Yep. Yeah, and I think too, it's, again, if you're, if you're familiar with the rule files and how those work, you can do all the image manager stuff yourself. So, it's we take a little different. We want you to learn how to do the stuff yourself, so you don't have to depend on us for a bunch of services, to get stuff set up and running. So, typically, we'll show you how to set the first one up. You'll work with you, and then, let you go from there. And, we're certainly available for help if you need it, but we want to make you as self-sufficient as possible.
So a little technical question. So the back end of this, SQL Server?
Nope. It's everything is included. The database, everything is included. So it's actually ProvideX is the engine behind it. So you do not have to have SQL Server or anything else. You install, the archive and the image manager, and you have everything you need.
Horsepower for processing and stuff like that. I know it's a vague question because it depends on documents, but I mean, does it need to be, we're going to have to get a Singularity to catalog the stuff, or is it pretty lightweight? Or,
well, it likes to have processing power. So I've got some info I can send you, and to help you figure out what the sizing needs to be.
Okay.
All the docs and everything though are compressed pretty thoroughly. So I think it's we get about a 95% compression rate. So storage isn't, certainly storage is fairly inexpensive now, but it's pretty efficient as far as that goes. But it does like a little horsepower to get stuff done.
And I assume on the acquisition side, you can set, I guess for lack of a better term, rules. So for example, vendor invoice that's for $0 will, not be included or be considered an exception, things like that. I'd assume you can do things like that.
So sure. So you've got, again, you can capture whatever values you need, and then you use There's a couple ways you could do it. You could use a parameter to do that. So let me look at a simpler one here. So it could be, you know, if total equals 0, stop and make somebody look at it, right? So absolutely, that's where you build all those right here. Let's look at this one. This one may actually have. So there, you know, on this total, you could add, you know, a rule saying, hey, if invoice total is X amount, stop.
Okay. Neat. And the one thing, I don't know if you have an example of it. So you were saying you can, you know, validate against SX.
Mm-hmm.
So somewhere you must write that query.
Yeah, you need to have the, you know, the appropriate ODBC drivers on the, you know, on the server that it's on, and we can do an ODBC call to bring data back in and then do the validation once we've grabbed it.
So where do you do that, in scripting or in the parameters, or okay? So you would just do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and again, same scripting language you're using to build your documents.
Right.
So we've got, yeah.
Isa, any questions?
No, actually no.